Welcome in, everybody, to week 8 of the Johnny Lee Memorial League podcast. Missed last week, actually, the last 2 weeks, I think maybe I missed. But I'm back. Good to be joined by Bracton, as always, and Smell, kind of becoming a regular host for us. Um, I think Smell is the only one that won this week. So, Smell, I think you're doing the best of the three of us. So, I'll kick it to you first. How you doing?
Man, it was a fun week. Paul, earlier today I was sweating it. I was telling you I'm thinking about benching my pitchers because I'm like, I don't want something stupid to happen with negative starts, and thank God I didn't. But man, it was a fun matchup with Chad, and yeah, we'll talk more about it. But I'm doing well. Got some job offers in, which is really good. That's always fun, and got some beer, have a cigar. It's a good night.
Very nice. Bracton, I see that you're wearing your Danhausen
My
shirt.
new Danhausen
Um,
shirt, yes, it's great. Um, I was cursed this week. The people that were have been cursed are still cursed, and I just now found out that Tita did not get the top scoring team of the week this week by 1 point. So that kind of makes me a little sad because I was going to come on here and be like, oh yeah, everybody else would have lost to Tita too, but now that's not the case. So is what it is. But yeah, everything's. I'm looking forward to starting a new week. Much needed, given that my matchup was over on Wednesday this week. So
it's always tough to weigh what's better, like being blown out early or having to come down to Sunday and losing. Because I've had it both ways this year. The last 2 weeks, it's been the latter of those scenarios. But we'll kick it off right now. Get into our matchups. Starting with I think the matchup of the week. I wasn't on the pod last week, but I know you guys highlighted it. I think as the matchup of the week. It was Hens Clearwater Beach Dogs prevailing against Cody's Bowling Green Hot Rods. Final score looks like 758 to 744. 14-point game. That's a home run. That's quality start and win plus 2 points. You know, lot, two very good teams duking it out all week, back and forth. Cody went up, Hen went up. But Bracton, I'll let you get us going here. What stood out to you?
well, Cody won the bats 429 to 355, and Hen won the pitching 403 to 315. If you had asked me, I would have said I would have reversed these two and wouldn't have been surprised. Like I honestly thought that Hen had the better bats and Cody had the better pitching, and that was going to be the storyline this week. But I was wrong on both accounts. I was also wrong in picking Cody to win too. I think the only one out of me, Smell, and Emmerich that picked Cody to win. So that didn't work out. But I think a lot of his bats kind of even though he won the bat total 429 to 355, like 23 from PCA, 27 or 22 from Chase DeLauder, 23 from Churio. Like if these guys kind of have slightly, you know, normal weeks by their standards, then maybe it's closer. But I mean, I don't see how you can be upset with this kind of output if you're Cody. Because I mean, 744. What was that? Third in the league this week? Yeah, third. Like, yeah, it sucks to lose to Hen, but if everybody loses to Hen, we kind of set the benchmark for, under 100 points loss is kind of a moral win. Um, Under 20 loss here for Cody is a huge moral win. And like you said, it's a home run or any, like, one thing that could have happened, a quality start or whatever. Like, when they meet each other again, that that's gonna be different possibly. So I'm excited to kind of see if they do meet again because that'll be interesting because it was so close. That's the first real test that anybody's given Hen in weeks. So props to both of them. It was a fun matchup to kind of watch and oversee. Yeah.
The only thing I'll say real quick before letting Smell go, I was about I think about 3 minutes late to getting Jason Alexander. Um, I think it was Tuesday was his start, Tuesday or Wednesday. Lance McCullers was scratched and then subsequently put on the injured list. And they named Jason Alexander, who was at the time a free agent, the starter for that game. I saw the news on Twitter, went to the league to see if he was available to pick up, and I think it was 3 minutes that Hen grabbed Alexander. Went for 33 points in that start. Um, Obviously, that was the difference for Hen. I'm not sure who his 12th start would have been without Alexander. But that could have been the difference. I probably wouldn't have been the difference for my matchup, but um, it was a close matchup the whole week. I think these two teams are in the top 3 or 4 probably in this league. Yeah, I mean, obviously Hens won. I don't think that's much really up for debate, but yeah, Smell. What do you think?
I think I disagree with what Bracton was saying a bit ago about the that you would have chosen Cody's arms over Hens. As I looked at this week and I was comparing it, I mean, the Hen had he was number one team with pitching points last week. He was the number one team in pitching points this week. So I think Hen's pitching is just vastly underrated. Um, Last week he had like 443. This week he had 403. He's averaging like 370 to 390. On his arm. So he's overachieving the past couple of weeks, but he's still getting there. His bats let him down though. I mean, 355 out of his bats. It's a good number. We're seeing 350 is probably the benchmark of what you want to get to for your bats on a weekly basis. He got there, but he's been averaging over 400 points a week. So his best bet was Burleson this week, I think, right? Alec Burleson paced him with 47 points. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he didn't really have anybody that really broke out. He had G-Ram weeks back that had over 100 points. This week, 35. And he's getting it done with George Springer with 44, Zach Geloff at 42, things like that. So it was kind of interesting. And I was, said, and it's goofy as hell to say it, that Hen has a vulnerability, but he does. And you have to catch him on a down week. Well, his bats had the down week. His arms certainly did not. On the flip side, Cody's bats, if I'm not mistaken, Cody led the league in bat points this week. He had 429 bat points, which was a great number. He's been averaging over 400 every week, so that's pretty much on pace. His arms did do better than what they have been doing. He's been averaging below 300 on his arms. He got 315. So I thought, his arms did better for him than what they have been. And it was, a couple small. You could Sunday night skipper the hell out of this matchup, and there was a path to victory for Cody. He had like 80 bench points. And when you look at some of the other, and I didn't go back and audit every single start of who started here when and everything like that, but when you see like Ballesteros had 3 points for him and Nolan Gorman was started, which I can't believe Nolan Gorman starting on the Cody team is kind of crazy with the lineup that he has, even on an off day. But he had -2 points, so that's 1 point between those two guys. Josh Lau had 2 points. So 3 points between those three guys, and he left 8 best. It's a path to victory. But you'd have to go back and really reverse engineer it to find it. It was a great matchup. We thought it was going to be a great matchup. Unless Fantrax readjusted it, they both came very close to what they were projected to get. It's showing that Hen beat his total by 5 and Cody missed his by 2 or 3. It was the matchup we thought it was going to be. It was great, and yeah, two of the Hen's the class of the league we've been talking about for weeks, and Cody's up there. He's, if you don't want to call him number 2, he's top 2, 3, 4. Slot him in there somewhere.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that is the case. Preseason, I think most would have said that to be the case, along with Jab. But yeah, great matchup. I'm sure they'll meet again in playoff time. But in the meantime, we'll move on to my matchup. We'll just rip the band-aid here. I played Emmerich. Final score, he won 589 to 529. My team's in a spiral. I don't know what's going on. I mean, 349 with my bats is better than 299 last week, but my arms scored freaking 180. I scored 4 arm points today. I had 2 starts, or no, 2 starts. I scored 4 points. I don't know. I mean, I spent 10 minutes putting together earlier the last 2 weeks how my pitching's gone. Um, Negative starts, man. That's the name of the game. You get negative starts, you put yourself behind the eight ball, and I did this week, and I did last week. I know that Emmerich, his team wasn't a whole lot better when it comes to pitching, but it was better. Um, I mean, I'll you guys can talk about it more, but the moves he made the last 2 days won him the matchup. And we will get to the abomination that was the Kolig trade in the trade section because it's probably the most notable trade of the week, given the light week that we had. Yeah, complete game shutout, difference in the game, just about. I mean, it still was about 10 after that, but I don't know. I was 4-2, now I'm 4-4, and I don't know where I stand. I don't know what I'm going to do next. My schedule is not going to get any easier. The next 5 weeks, in my mind, all at least potential playoff teams. So yeah, I'm not sure what to do, but Smell, I'll let you discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, you touch on the big points. I mean, arms at 180, that was second worst in the league for the week. About 100 off of your normal average. Your bats 349, that was middle of the road. Again, using that 350 as a benchmark. You're typically around 400 for your bats, so everything let you down this week. Yeah, number of negative starts. Randy Vasquez, just Tony Santillan in the relief effort. Who, I mean, the big one, Paul Skeens. I mean, or Scenes. Until he gets his K back. Trevor Rogers. You were on there talking earlier today about he's the worst pitcher in baseball. I have something to say about that because I've got somebody named Devin Williams who likes to give up grand slams to jobbers who just got called up and nobody's ever heard of um, to lose a game. But I mean, yeah, that's been this season though. This season has been a roller coaster for a lot of teams. You have these great weeks, and then you have this really bad down week. And this is what I've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks. For somebody to beat Hen, it's going to take a week like what you had this week, or like what Emmerich had this week. Um, Emmerich did go out there. I mean, he was telling me he's like, I am managing the shit out of my team this weekend. I think he said to Bracton too. He was out there hustling. Um, and there was a trade that almost happened between Emmerich and I. It almost happened between you and I, Paul, and then found out that the game wasn't happening, and so I let you know, like, hey, I'm not going to click accept on this because you're not going to get to start out this guy who got pushed to tomorrow. And I didn't feel good doing that with that knowledge, and you probably didn't have that knowledge. But Emmerich had some bad starts too. I mean, it was a bulk game for Fetty, but negative 18. And it was funny, you called me Smell Stradamus, I think, because I was on the chat that morning saying, oh, he's going in bulk. This could be a big game for Paul. So both teams just drastically underperformed. For Emmerich, I mean, his bats were a good 40 to 70 points off his average. His arms were actually he's like slightly above his average, so his arms did what he kind of probably expected to do, even with some bad outings. But that Kolick deal was, yeah, that was crazy. That changed the entire week with a complete game shutout, 58 points for ultimately a worst. Um, we'll talk about that more later, but that was crazy. But yeah, rough week for both teams.
Yeah, Bracton, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much hit what I was gonna say. I mean, other than you know a couple really big bat performances from Emmerich's guys. I mean, 53 from Julio Rodriguez is like his first like real big week that at least that I'm aware of where he actually did what he was supposed to do. That Emmerich was relying on him. Zach Neto 50 points. What do you call it? Xavier Edwards 49. Like three really huge performances that he needed every bit of. And I mean, Luis Arias even chipped in with 30. That's Emmerich's guy. So like the Emmerich's bats that he needed to perform did perform, even though he lost the actual battle, which is crazy. Um, but yeah, I mean, like we said, the complete game shutout was huge. He got Bailey Ober from me today, who got him 12. I mean, again, positive, not didn't do anything to hurt him, so that's huge. Um, yeah, I mean, Paul, I what do you call it? Another record bet implication here, and that's all I've really got to say on it. You guys hit most of what I was going to add, but good week for Emmerich, even with the low pitching or low point total. But we'll see what goes on next week.
The one thing I didn't touch on that I'm surprised I didn't is, Ildelarmo Vargas is finally droppable. 17 points on the week. Put him back where he belongs. Put him back on waivers.
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I'll say, Okamoto fucking sucks. -5
Yep.
points.
I've been
So,
saying,
there
man,
we go.
waivers at the beginning of the year next year. I always called that from the beginning. So
I feel like you fell off the face of a cliff, though, because I feel like there for a while, Paul, every single day you were posting Okamoto bomb, and it was just making me sad every day I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not sustainable to hit a home run every day unless
Yeah,
you're Murakami, I guess. But
he didn't have a very
yeah,
good week.
we'll get to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, like negative. I know I didn't play him every day, but days I didn't. I think if you look for his week total, it was like 2 or 3 points across 30 at bats, something like that. So yeah, I mean, had a bad week. Hopefully, it's just a funk. We went through a funk earlier this year. That's as Smell knows. We'll see. Moving on, as Bracton mentioned, Nashville Sounds took down the Bismarck Larks. Final score 757 to 578. Or is yours, Bracton?
All right. Well, I wanted this one. There's no secret about it. Tita took clips of that were out of context, okay, which sucks because I had to see it 10 to 15 times this week. Like, Tita, I never insult you as a manager, okay? I love what you do. I wish I had the courage to say fuck my entire team and build my team the way that you do because clearly it works. Okay, 757 this week was tops in the league until like an hour ago. So, yeah, we were sitting here talking about, oh, it wasn't sustainable last week. Yet you did it again this week. So, I mean, who are we to judge anymore? It's Yandy Diaz 52, uh, Casey Schmidt on and off teams and waivers 59, like 72 points from William Contreras. And the funny thing is, you and I trade so much, Tita, that I've had all of these guys at some point. Zach Gallen 51, Cade Cavalli 30, Emerson Hancock 11, like all of these former Larks doing this to me. And there was a time where even Volpe got points, 14, but I would think that those 7 at bats came earlier in the week, and you were like, oh yeah, Volpe's back and everything. Now he's back on my team. But point is, you had a great week. Tita had a great week. Um, he did make a comment earlier in the main that I wanted to talk about here was that he says my bats aren't good enough to compete with people, and if my arms have an off week, then or what was it? Yeah, something like that. But my bats actually did have a good week, I thought. 316 was kind of what we were talking about. What was it? Can you tell me, Smell? Where I finished in bats?
um, you finished at 316. You finished 11th.
That was 11th? Holy shit. Okay. Well, my target internally was always 300 points for bats, so I don't know, maybe I'm setting the bar too low there. But whatever it is, I was disappointed in a couple starts. Noah Schultz with a 0 point week in 2 starts. That's helpful. Nolan McLean negative, McGreevy negative, uh, Burke basically nothing. Just I don't know. My so-called closers, -6 for Riley O'Brien. Like I don't know, man. there was a lot of potential deals that happened this week, trying to shake some stuff up. I feel like Paul and I are kind of in a similar spot where we're trying to make a big deal and alter some things a little bit, almost connected on some huge stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I don't know. I'm hoping for a bounce back week against Jab, who's suddenly found his stride a little bit. So we'll get to that. But props to you, Tito. All the credit in the world. I hope you clip that and don't ever clip me again saying that I'm not a Sounds fan, because I've picked the Sounds to win every week except this one. If you were on the pod, you would pick yourself too in any matchup. That's just how it is. I'm never gonna say I'm gonna lose unless I'm playing Hen. So that's it.
What's the saying that they shout your failures and they whisper your successes, something like that?
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Bracton or Tita will shout how you apparently disrespected him, but won't say a word when you claim. But good. His team's good and all that. And yeah. Anyway, my 2 cents here, real quick. Yeah, you kind of glossed over it, but Riley O'Brien, -6 points on the week for you. That's a big deal. Like I'm the first one to always talk about closers, relief pitchers, their impact. That's a guy that for you has been closer to like the 20 to 30 range, and -6 for the week is a big drop. Um, Past that, you touched on it. Nolan McLean -1 in his start. McGreevy opening our hearts didn't open this week. -6 with his start. Um, yeah, I mean, if you kind of went up and down your arms here, you probably could find some similar stats and points to what I found with mine this week. So yeah, teams kind of come and go with their arms. It's just kind of the nature of this league and how it's set up. I do think 316 is low for bats. I don't think that's your ceiling though. I mean, I've been critical of your bats, but I've also been praising of your bats too, like JJ, like Michael Harris had a great week this week. Maga Nimmo had a good week. There's still Murakami had a down week for what he's been doing. I would say.
No, I hear you, Smell. I hear you.
Smell's gonna talk in a minute.
No, it's.
But TJ Rumfield, your guy, 40 points.
I love TJ Rumfield. Thank you, Smell.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
So, but still, overall, I'd say 316 is not cutting it.
What was the average for bats this week? Can somebody? Do you have it in front of you?
It's got to be like 350. But
no, so
ahead,
every week when I do this, you guys know I'm ranking and taking a look at this. Like last week, Emmerich was middle of the road at 356. This week, it was Hen was 6th with 355, and Paul, you were 7th with 349. So 350 is that number. That's the middle of the road. That's the benchmark. Right. If you're below 350, you're below average.
Okay.
That's been
that's what I always operate under, or have been operating under, is 350 for bats and 300 for arms. If you can hit both of those in the week, you have a good chance to win, regardless of who you play. That's always been my goal. Now, I've obviously fallen very well short in the arms department the last 2 weeks. That's to me what people should be going for. Obviously, if you can win with less, you can win with less. If you lose with more, well, that's what it is. But for Tita, real quick with his team, Wilson Contreras, the hell off this week. 72 points, 418 bat points is wild. I mean, it was all hitting for him. Casey Schmidt, who we got for almost nothing, who I could have had for almost nothing, 59 points. Yandy Diaz, I know he missed a game, I think, 52 points. Ivan Herrera, 53. I mean, there's Zach Gallen from the Ashes, 51 points in his 2-start week. I mean, yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot here that it all hit for Tita. I've said before, like, what his ceiling is. I mean, the reality is, and this is why, half of what we say is kind of just dumb, because I said his ceiling's like 650 ish, and then he throws up 757 like it was nothing, and he barely really made any trades this week either. So he just scoured waiver wire, played matchups. I've said it before. He plays matchups better than any person in this league, in my opinion. And yeah, he did it. Like, all the props, all the kudos to Tita for what he did this week. Um, and I will say that I play him. I think in like a month or so, I will make sure that I don't say a fucking word about his team, because I don't need any clips of me being put out there. But Smell, I don't want to forget you. I'll let you kind of close us out on this.
There's a part of me that wants to go total like Stephen A. Smith on this shit because like to start throwing my hands around, going blasphemy and everything else. Like,
Do it.
Tita dude set up Bracton's like disingenuous apology. You have the clip. He said what he said. What's bothering me? There's three things that are really bothering me. First thing that's really bothering me is that, Paul, you just said it, and it's been said in Maine, and Bracton's being dragged through the ringer about not calling your shot and saying that you're going to beat Tita. I called my shot for weeks before the season started, saying I was going to beat Tita week 1, and I did the job. So if you think you're going to do it, fucking call your shot. Say you're going to do it, and don't be ashamed of it. So Bracton, I'm proud that you stood up for it. I'm embarrassed by the result you put up, though.
Yeah, me too.
The second thing, and you talked a lot. You guys talked about a lot of the players. One player was notably missing from the commentary, and it's Gavin Williams. I was in Maine praising Gavin Williams, and I got shredded by one or two people saying that Yuri Perez and whoever else is so much better. And I threw out the numbers. I said, look at the numbers, look at the stats. Here are the stats. And then I was mocked for saying that the stats don't matter, or stats matter and the stats don't lie. Gavin Williams, right now, as we sit here today, and it's still early in the season, he's the sixth rated starting pitcher in baseball. Yuri Perez is 66th. It's not just about this year, though. Every week, every season I look back at, Gavin Williams was the statistically better pitcher. I will still say I believe Yuri Perez has the higher ceiling, but Gavin Williams had a great week at 54 points in his start. So those are the two. Well, those were actually all three things. So the third one was the points thing. I was told and kind of mocked the thing. Stats don't lie, and stats tell the story. That's all we're talking about here, guys. That's what fantasy baseball is about. It's about the statistics. It's about the points. So that's all we're talking about here. So yeah, Tita put up a fucking ridiculous number back-to-back weeks. He was the number one bat team last week with 457. This week he was, I think, God, where did he fall on this week? He was third this week with 419. His arms were below middle of the road. He had 251. I'm sorry, no, 339. So he's fourth in pitching points. So Tita just put it all together. The thing that we need to talk about Tita, as many trades as he's making, and he just made another one. I don't know who it was for, but popping up on my screen.
Traded for Eric Lauer. Holy shit. Unbelievable.
Terrorist. But the thing with
Jay
Tita,
Bennett, dude.
the
That's
thing that we need
crazy.
to talk about Tita is that he's not trading everybody like he used to trade everybody. He's had Ivan Herrera now for a couple months, which for most of us is not a very long time. For Tita, that's like 6 seasons worth. Tita's hanging on to guys and he's running them out there and he's starting and he's rolling with them. He's had Henderson, he's had Hancock, he's had these guys and he's building around them. So Tita has done the work to start, and he's trading these, call them secondary guys, and he's trading them without apology and moving on. So now we've had 12 trades this week again. Tita's in half of them with 6, with the one that he just made. And Bracton, you know your team better than Paul or I do. You made some trades. I'm interested to see how your team shakes out. I don't agree with what Tita said about your bats. I think your bats are normally good enough to carry. I mean, your average has been 350 to 360. You had a down week. But your arms were way below average. Your arms have been averaging almost 300, 320, and you were in the 260s this week. So your arms let you down, your bats let you down, and Tita had a historically great week for a second week in a row, second highest scoring team. And Tita's doing it. He's being un-Tita like and keeping players, and I think we're seeing a shift. So he's pissed. He wants to win, and he's not going to tolerate being a bottom team. He's going to be competitive, and if he's not in the playoffs, he'll be one of the first teams out.
A really good point.
What's that?
What he was saying about Tita keeping guys. Like I hadn't really even thought about that until now, but like all those guys, Wilson Contreras, what do you call it, Herrera, Hancock, and all them. We even though we trade them back and forth, like he gets them back fairly quickly, or keeps them for weeks on end, like you said. But yeah, that's a good point. Tita's actually like somewhat building a little bit too, and has made a point of emphasis to
I
not dip
heard
below a certain amount of arms or a certain amount of prospects. So that's a thing too. Hmm.
I heard Ivan Herrera was in some trade talks today.
He is.
Almost tried.
Interesting. Before we move on, last thing I'll say, the Gavin Williams, Yuri Perez thing, since I was involved in that. Obviously, I would say that Gavin Williams, it's not arguable. Gavin Williams this year so far has been the better pitcher. I'd argue that. Stealing is what I'm talking about when I talk about Yuri Perez versus Gavin Williams. You said it, Smell, and I do agree. And that was the only point I was making. I know other points were made in Maine.
Right.
I think potentially, and obviously I can be wrong. We all can be. I would prefer Gavin or Yuri Perez over Gavin Williams in a dynasty league, in a dynasty setting. That weighs heavily in terms of valuation. So
I would say I
my only
agree with
piece
you.
there.
I agree with you based on depending on how your team is set up. If you're win now, you want the team that's producing now, not the guy who has the better ceiling necessarily. You want the guy that's producing now. That's just my perspective.
Fair, fair. No, I disagree. Um,
No
and
problem.
if you disagree with Gavin Williams has been the better pitcher this year, then you're just not looking at stats. I
Right.
don't know. I don't know if Cody was trying to say that. I don't know. I have no idea what he's trying to say. And I don't speak for him. I speak for me. But anyway, moving
Yeah,
on. We don't
we're
need to get
good.
any more into that. We'll move on. Smell to your matchup. You took down Chad. El Paso taking down Oklahoma City. Final score was 722 to 671. Smell, you were the victor. I'll let you start us off.
Yeah, I mean, this was a sweat. You guys know what I said earlier. I mean, I going into today, I felt confident. Halfway through the day, I'm like, I'm gonna lose, and we pulled it out. The the time where I really felt like I was going to lose today was Devin Williams. Like I said, giving up a grand slam to some jobber guy who's nobody's ever heard of. That was called up. I think it's his first home run of his career in the majors. And when I saw that happening, I'm like, all right, it's over. I mean, it's in the cards. I'm not supposed to win this game. And the week started off rough too, with Gore pitching 1 inning and getting -8. I was like, okay, if this is how the week's going to go, I'm screwed. But we had some great performances. Max Meyer, who before we started the pod, Bracton was like, "Hey, how do I get Max Meyer back?" I'm like, "You don't." 82 points this week, and I love the guy, and I was happy to get him. And Bracton's like, "Yeah, I shouldn't have done that trade." I'm like, "I'm happy you did, man. Thank you." But he paced my team, and that was one of the best pitching performances I think I've had this year. Interestingly, Foster Griffin bounced back. He was my second highest scoring, but Shane Drohan, my third highest scoring pitcher with 43 points. Um, 2 long relief appearances. I'm thrilled to see it. Um, when I looked at my team again in the aggregate, my bats are they are average. They hit the average of what I've been getting. I've been averaging 340 to 360. I hit 338, so a little bit below average. My arms killed it though. Even with the one even with a 1 inning outing from Gore, even with -17 from um, my relief pitcher today from Williams, I still had 379 points, which was only behind Chad. I mean, Chad, who I faced, Chad had 403 and had 403. I came in next at 379. So I told you the gap there is in pitching in the league. It's pretty crazy. Um, on the pod last week, I don't, Bryce, I don't remember if it was you. I think it was you that said the relief points and still that really hit me hard. Devin Williams was imploding today, but I still had a decent week for Fairbanks. He had 28. I had some long relief. Like Ian Seymour got me 34 points off the bench. Who else drove him to 43? So there's some good performances there. I was happy about that. But that's I've got all the names I love. I love the guys by with their name value, but they're not being any Gucci Betts in 11 points this week. Goldschmidt was only 3 points behind Harper, and I picked him up and played him for one day, and he had 21 points in one day. Um, it's funny because then Chad picked him up and played him against me twice and only got 2 points the two times he started out. But Chad had a great week. Like Chad said in Maine, like if it takes somebody hitting 700 points to beat him, it's hard to be upset about that. Yamamoto had his first two-start week of the season. So he had 59 points out of him. Kate Smith, 57 points with 4 saves. He had 4 appearances this week. But he's getting it done with some other guys too, like Kaiwi Tang, who I owned earlier this season and dropped him. 37 points out of a guy like that is crazy. Um, Luis Castillo is, a Baltic guy now, 7 points, only had one appearance. That's not very great for Chad, but again, Chad's arm still paced the league. Where Chad fell short was his bats. He said, um, his bats were a good 100 points below the average. If he hits his average bats, he's the highest scoring team of the week, and he beats me and everybody else. But his bats had a down week, which was disappointing to see for him. But I've said this repeatedly. I say it every week on the pod. I feel like Chad, has been routinely the fourth or fifth highest scoring team in the league. Um, I didn't see exactly where he finished this week. 671 is probably going to be fifth or sixth. So, not in the top half, certainly. I was happy with my performance. It's a good week. I would have hit Ben a 750-point team if Gore didn't have a one inning performance, and if he wouldn't have had if Williams wouldn't have imploded today. 750 was in my grasp this week, and I was really hoping to hit it and fell short because of a couple guys. But overall, excited about the week.
Yeah, I think you should be. 722 is a great score. My only piece here, because you covered the whole matchup just about.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. It's your matchup. 82 points out of Max Meyer is awesome. 2 starts, 82 points. I owned him for a few weeks this year. He's really kind of blossomed. I feel like this year. Knock on wood. Hope he can stay healthy. Truly, I do like Max Meyer. I'm a fan. Um, that's been his bugaboo. But yeah, if he can put it together, he's a top 30, 40 arm in my opinion. Um, and then for Chad and for his side, 403 points from his arms is fantastic. He starts out of Yamamoto this week. First time I think this year
Yep.
he's gotten a 2-start week. And that's what you get, because he's that kind of pitcher. He's a 25, 30 point pitcher, and times two, it's 60 points just about, and that's what he got. With the bats, I mean, it's tough. It was a tough week for his bats. 268's very, very much well below average. I mean, you hit on most of them, but there's just a lot of guys where it's good names but underperformances. So I know that he not too long ago posted on the trade block he's looking to shake it up. I have actually an offer in my inbox to do just that for him. We'll see what happens there. I might do it, I might not. We'll see. But Bracton, I'll let you kind of close us out here.
I think you just nailed what I was going to say with a lot of good names and not a lot of good scores this week with Chad with 20 points from Ben Rice, 21 from Soderstrom, 22 from Andy Paez, what do you call it, 15 from Basayo. Like, you're going to need more out of those guys. He knows that. Then the block shakeup, I'm willing to trade anybody is indicative of that. 12 points from Vinny Pascantino, too, I'm looking at. So, um, yeah, I mean, kind of again, I was wrong about his pitching, and he's done substantial work to improve his pitching. And we've been saying, pitching's the hardest thing to find around here. He put up 403 with his arms, actually beat you in the arms race, which is crazy. But you know, I don't want to say finding hitters are easier than finding pitchers, even though it's kind of true. But like, he kind of has in-house hitting guys that had down weeks, and that was the difference, you know. So I don't know that he needs to do a lot of work here. Maybe just shake up good arms or good bats for different good bats, maybe. But I don't think he should be discouraged. I think he's a much better team than I've been giving him credit for in the last couple of weeks. So again, this is the night of me eating shit and saying how wrong I've been about everybody's teams, and I'm cool with that. But um, yeah, I mean, just an interesting week. I picked you to win, Smell, so I mean, at least I got that right. But you know, Chad in a loss, that's about as good as you can look from the arms, at least. So
But we're called for me to lose because of the Yamamoto 2-star week and because of the Cease 2-star week. And I know Cease got pulled early today, and
oh, I
Chad was in
changed it. That's
there.
right.
Yeah,
Damn, you're
Chad was
right.
in there with the blue doll saying smells back at it again.
Oh,
Um,
I remember that now.
yeah. So
So I didn't even get that right. Oh man,
it's all
rough
right.
week of last week's predictions for me. Just crazy.
Oh, I didn't plan this, but moving on to more things Bracton's been wrong about. The Salem Ridgejacks take down the Akron Rubber Ducks. Final score 647 to 544. Bracton. Looks like Jab's team won by over 100 points. Scored
Yeah.
647. I'll let you go first.
The only thing I have to say about this is that we play each other next week, and that will be the test. If I beat him twice, I have the right to say whatever I want. If I don't, and we split, I'm still happy with the split, given that he's been propped up to be the second or third best team in the league. But I have a real chance to to go 2-0 on him this year, and if I do, then I'm gonna be saying whatever. Um, Jack, I don't. I'm looking at the arm performances, and some of them are great, some of them aren't, and that's just been the story of Jack's team this year. The bats 336, close to the 350 benchmark. But Jabs bats with 420, and that was the difference. He's finally getting, you know, contributions from the bigger guy. I mean, Ketel Marte finally had a good week, 105 points, makes up for his last few weeks of being absolutely terrible. And then the supporting cast guys that I've been ripping all had above 30 pretty much. So, I mean, we'll see. Is it sustainable? Is my question. And for the larger part of this year, the answer has been no. But if these guys are all hitting their strides at the exact same time here, then yeah, obviously he's going to be a tough out. He's going to be a hard team to beat. But with all those guys performing as well as they did, that 647 is not. I think it's a more reasonable number than those higher ceiling 700 teams that we've talked about so far this week. So we'll see. This is the biggest game of the year for me next week, and I want this one. I really do. So we'll get into that later a little more, but that's all I got to say.
Yeah, so few things. I will in your defense, Bracton. 647 is a good number. It does lose to a bunch of teams that we've already talked about. Um I don't Smell can tell me where he was for the week. Um yeah, I mean here's a few things. Number one being that Jack's team has been underperforming. Um but I think a lot of it is because of injuries. It's very detailed, all of the injuries that Jack has had. One I did want to highlight is Jackson Holiday. Came back this week, had 19 points and 5 at bats. Is that right? Five? Yeah. 5 at bats for Jack. So, what will Jackson Holiday be? I don't know. This year, for his career, I don't know. That's a big name, and it's a big name to have back. Um, I also wanted to shout out Reed Detmers for Jack. In his start tonight. had 55 points. He had 14 strikeouts in his start. Without that performance, like if that goes even negative, and Jack doesn't even clear 500 for the week, I don't think talent wise Jack is in the bottom 3 or 4 teams in this league, but I do think points wise in scoring so far in the year, I think that's where he kind of is. Um, I think his arrow is pointing up because I think as he gets guys back, he'll start scoring more. But right now, Jack is the team I'd want to face right now. Um, I don't face him for I think another 6 weeks or so. Probably by then he'll have all his guys back. But for Jab and his team, yeah, I mean Braxton said it. Like MVP of the week's got to be Ketel Marte. Freaking had 3 home runs, 105 points. Like just went absolutely bonkers this week. But past that, Vlad Guerrero got hurt today. Negative X-rays on his elbow. We'll see where that goes. But 420 points from his bats is an insane number. And I think only one of his starts went negative, kind of pre-lit. So good there. But the one thing with his team I wanted to highlight for relief pitchers, he had a total of 5 points for the week. I mean, that's for to be a top team. I've always said, relief pitchers, bullpen separates good teams from great teams. Kenley Jansen is the closer for Detroit, but he's not been very good this year so far. I don't know. I mean, he's also old. So Daniel Palencia, I mean, the Cubs bullpen's kind of a mess. He was hurt for a little while. He's back. See if he can claim a high leverage role, and then Paul Blackburn. Like, I mean, these are not top end guys. I know Jab's not necessarily one to go trade for relief pitching, but I think that's kind of where if he's looking for somewhere to go, I think that's kind of where he should start. Because otherwise, I think his team is starting to pick up, and when he gets Ball back, when he gets Crochet back, it's just going to be even better. So Smell, I'll let you close this out.
Yeah. Braxton, I'm sorry. I mean, I love you, man, but yeah, you're eating a lot of shit today. There's a lot of things that were said. I've been preaching for weeks that Jab's bats are going to be fine. 420 points, pretty damn fine. Second only to Cody, who had 429. And he still had room for more, right? Ellie only had 25 points. So, I mean, he still had room to get more points out of some of his big bats. The one you probably, where I'm saying you need to eat some crow on, Bracton, is last week when on the pod, Teoscar Hernandez had a 52 point week. Like, dude, he's not going to have that for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 53
I
points
said
this
that. I did say that.
You did. I mean,
Yep.
I'm not trying to come with receipts for Jab, but raising Jab's team all season. I picked him as the top. I think I picked him as the number 1 team in the league preseason, if not number two. But yeah, his arms are struggling. They have been struggling. They're going to continue to struggle because he's missing his big name arms. Looking at the rest of the breakdown on it, where did my numbers go? Jab 420. I mean, so his bats rebounded. His pitching, as bad as it was at 227, it was 10th in the league. It's still better than what it's been the past several weeks. He's been around the 210 number. So he did squeak out some additional points out of his bats this week. Jack had a very rough week. I mean, you nailed it, Paul, with regards to Detmers. I mean, that game was insanity watching that go. So he ended up with 208 pitching points, which was 12th in the league for pitching. Sasaki returned back to 19 points is not pulled pork, but it wasn't like the 50 or 60 he had last week. And I know he's shopping Michael King right now. He and I had a little conversation on that. I know he's on the beach smoking a cigar, kind of like I am. So maybe we'll connect because I'm always looking to get more pitching. But Sal Stewart continues to be a beast at 52 points. Jared Duran had another good week. he's got some good bats. Jack's team is going to be when he gets fully healthy, especially if he's getting 56-point performances at Detmers. Did he have 50 strikeouts today or something like that? I can't remember. Like, it was a career
14.
high. 14. I know it was a career high, but yeah, just huge game for Detmers, which is fun to see as he was going up against Mackenzie Gore. I wasn't watching it for Detmers, but I stayed to see it.
There's really not much to add there, so we'll move on to our next matchup. And it was Connor's Sod Poodles taking down the Exploding Whales that Scott has. Final score was 561 to 521. Another kind of lower scoring matchup. Connor, I think we've all kind of said is among the top half, I would say, in teams. And I think we've all kind of said that Scott's in the bottom half. But a 40-point game, this was pretty close most of the week. I'll say my few things here real quick. 397 bat points for Connor is very good. And that comes also with catching situation. I know he's got Will Smith and Dalton Rushing are his two big catchers, both on the Dodgers, combined for 14 points this week. Not a typical week for him. And then the other one, Ian Happ, -2 points and 15 at bats. Ian Happ's had a really slow, as Smell can attest, really slow last few weeks, month or so. Then the flip side of that's Corbin Carroll, 62 points. In the start that he kind of has been these last few years. Freeman, who we went and got last week, 60 points. So yeah, there's a lot to like there. His arms, he got Taj Bradley back this week, 28 points in that start. But then Sandy Alcantara, -3. He was kind of the Cy Young at the start of the year, and he's had a few rough starts in a row now. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like, I would say, with Connor and his team. Some positives, some negatives. 561's a negative though. I know he should be probably wanting to get back over 600, get back into the top end scoring. For Scott, I still there's a lot to like here with Scott's team in terms of individual players. McGonagall's very good. I think Bo Bichette's starting to come back. 59 points in his week this week. He's had a very slow start with the Mets, but I think he's starting to get it picked up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, with pitching, I don't know. 213's it's decent. But yeah, there's which is actually pretty crazy. Have that few points with 0 negative starts. Then there's just a lot of guys here where it's like, like Tyler Molly, Aaron Savali, like not big name guys that he's just kind of getting meh performances out of. I mean, I say that I wish I would get 2 points out of a start sometimes. I mean, instead of the -12 that I've gotten or worse. But yeah, I mean, a guy like Emmett Sheehan, like I feel like he's gonna turn it around. But until he does, it's hard to say, And we're in week 8 now. Like, I don't know, has Scott ever scored over 300 pitching points? I mean, I'm sure Smell could check that. But yeah, I think there's still a lot to be left desired here. But I will very much say that individually, there's a lot to like with Scott's team. I didn't say Nico Horner who had done this week, but he's been very good here too. So overall, low scoring on both sides, I would say. And I think there's definitely room to improve for both of them. So Smell, if you have any of those stats, you can hit me with them, but take your breakdown here.
Yeah, Scott had 311 5 or 6 weeks ago for his pitching. That was a week where he had 354 out of his bats and 11 out of his arms. which was a high water week. But he's been averaging. Scott's been averaging 205 to 225 for his bats this on a weekly basis. When you take out like the 311 week, he falls into the 210 range, which is right where he hit. So he hit right on his season average. 213 is not a good number, though. I mean, it was 11th best in the league, and this was a really down week for pitching for a lot of teams. Like I said, I mean, I was third with 379, but then it drops down from there really quickly to 339, then the low 300s, then we go down to the low 200s. So the pitching was really kind of all over the place this week. But his bats did underperform. He had the 12th best bats at 308 is not the number he needs. He's been consistently a 340 to 350 point bat. So his bats definitely disappointed. If his bats have an average week, we might be looking at a tie or a 1 or 2 point game. I think, and Bracton could correct me if I'm wrong, I think on the pod last week, we all said this was going to be like a close 20, 30, 40 point game. I think we all expected it. None of us expected it to be in the low to mid 500s, though. We expected, closer to 600 out of both teams, if not in the low 600s out of both teams. But you nailed a lot of performances. I think one of the things that Scott's got to be really excited about is that Andrew Painter had 34 points in a 2-start week, because Painter's just been horrible this year. So he might be really getting things turned around, which would be really good. Emmett Sheehan, you talked about, I hated trading him in the offseason. He's been very up and down. He has these 30-point performances, and he has these dog, 4-inning, 2-point performances. Grayson Rodriguez is starting to get his legs back underneath him, so that might be really good for Scott to get him some positive momentum. Casey Mize, I've always thought was kind of underrated, and I can't support Anthony Cave. Performances there. Yeah, I think the real story here that you touched on was the disappointment from the Sod Poodles. What's crazy, Connor, 397 bat points, 5th in the league. That's like his average. He's hitting 385 his average has been like 191 to 200. So there's definitely work to do for the Sod Poodles' arms. And it's crazy because he's got some really good performances. Like Jose Soriano, good much of the season. He had a bounce back with 29 points this week. Robbie Ray murdered him with negative 21 points. I mean, that's just hard to sustain. Jacob Lopez, hard to another negative. Jacob DeGrom, negative 12. He had so many good performances. And again, he's got these names. Sandy Alcantara, you expect him to get positive points. Jacob DeGrom, you expect him to get positive points. And he's not. Meanwhile, he's getting in the mid-20s on Yoendrys Gomez, which ended up dropping, and then Chad picked him up and made me really sweat this week today with Yoendrys and Gomez. So Connor could have got even more points there. Got 24 points on Merrill Kelly, 18 points on Killian. So he's piecing it together, but the negative performance is a lot, and that's where he really needs to get figured out more than anything. Jackson Merrill, I know he's benched him. He only had 1 starting point this week. I think if he would have started him all week, he was only in the 20s. I mean, this is a guy that, if you ask Connor, I think he was expected to get 40, 50 points a week out of Jackson Merrill. I think most of us would probably say that's reasonable. Carroll for me today. I know that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but I love seeing that. Miguel Vargas had a home run for him today. Freddie Freeman, I talked about that trade a lot last week on the pod. I thought it was a great move for Connor, and improved out 60 points this week. If he doesn't make that trade, he probably doesn't win this week. So, I mean, the trade he made last week really helped him in a down week still win. But I do think he's got the assets. He's got tons of minor leaguers. He's got every pick in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round, I think, for the next couple of drafts. He's got assets to be able to move to improve his team. But yeah, both these guys are disappointed in the outcome. Scott more so with the loss.
Yeah. We'll go back to you, Bracton, to get your final thoughts here. I think that's right. 4. Yeah.
Remember what I said a
I
couple
think
weeks
that
ago about Cardinals team being the best, least talked about team on the pod. So we need to give him some the time.
I think it's important there what you said, Bracton, that Connor had a down week and he still got a win. You know, those will matter at the end of the year, like in terms of playoff teams, not playoff teams, seeding, and whatever that shakes out to be. Like one win can make that difference, you know, and to score what he scored in the 500s and still win. I mean, I scored in the 500s and lost. So, uh, yeah, right, exactly. So, move on to our final matchup. We've kind of been long in the matchups, but that's because there's not a whole lot we'll talk about here on the back end. Uh, but it's John Height and his Hartford Yard Goats. They took down Nick and those Churros. Final score looks like 718 to 485. I'm not going to talk too much on this, but the one thing that I will say 310 arm points, pitching points from John Height. When all year we've talked about how pitching is his weakness. Um, to me, and because I've been looking at it here for a minute, thing that stands out to me, and now I'm hyper focused on it because it's only happened to me, or it's exclusively like more than half my starts, negative pitching points, and he had none of those this week. I mean, there were low single digit, couple of them pitching points, performances, but it's such a huge difference to go from negative to positive in terms of pitching performances. I laid it out in the screenshot that I posted on Main earlier. Like, you know, the swing, even if your guys only average 8 to 10 points to start, that swing from that versus 4 or 5 guys going negative is huge. And it did this week. He pretty good, over 200 points. But those kind of performances is what makes the difference between winning and losing, between scoring 600 points versus 650 points. Those kind of things where it's a huge deal. It's become more apparent and it's more top of mind for me now because of my performance the last 2 weeks. But uh, yeah, I mean, and the other thing I'll say real quick about Height's team is he has like his big like four-ish probably bats between Otani, Soto, Judge, Abrams, James Wood. Don't want to forget him. So like 4 or 5 bats. But it's when he can get good performances from like those supporting guys. Michael Bush with 33, Brian Rocchio, who he picked off waivers 2 weeks ago with 33. And those guys perform well. John Hight's going to beat who he plays, whichever week he plays. Because you can pretty much bake in 60 plus for Otani, 60 plus for Judge, 60 plus for Soto when he's healthy. So yeah, I mean it's a credit to John Haidt and his team. For Nick, 45 probably is in line with where he's gonna be in terms of how he's built that roster with his rebuild. I did want to shout out his bullpen. That terrorist Jeff Hoffman with 45. They've kind of been splitting a little bit, closing roles with him and Louis Varland. No, they put in Louis Varland for a 2 inning save. I think yesterday or 2 days ago. So I think he's kind of the better or the more used option still. But Jeff Hoffman's slowly working his way back in to that role. So that could potentially be a valuable piece for Nick here coming soon. Otherwise, yeah, like Patrick Corbin, 2-star week, 40 points. That's a valuable piece too. Bubba Chandler finally had a really good probably his best outing to date this year, maybe of his career. 11 strikeouts. Didn't get the win, took the loss actually, but then it was this week that JT Ginn had his air no hitter, right?
No, it was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah. Was it last week? Yeah, it was the 18th. So yeah,
Okay.
it was this week. Which was
Right.
crazy. Like I was following it, and I'm sure John Haidt was probably sweating that because I mean this matchup takes a turn if that goes for a no hitter. So yeah, there's still some good pieces that Nick, if he's motivated to, can sell off for even more youth. But you want to be careful with doing that, just because you don't want to have nothing going on your major league roster. Like you don't want to be in a permanent rebuild, is what I would say. But yeah, there's definitely some room still for movement for Nick. So Bracton, I'll head over to you with this one. unfortunately. Mel, cap us off.
Yeah, I mean, the story is Heights team rebounding from where it's been. I mean, 408 points from his bats was good for fourth in the league. It's 50 to 60 points higher than what he's been getting on a weekly basis. So huge shout out there. Even bigger was his arms. I mean, 310 is that magic number. He finished right in the middle of the pack with sixth. But again, that was like 60 to 50 to 60 points more than what he's been averaging. So his whole team came together. On the flip side, Nick's team, he's been very steady at 150 pitching points, like week in, week out. That's just been his average. He added 100 to that. So if he can keep doing that, we can see Nick finally get off the schneid. He said he's not going to go winless. I believe it. But his bats really let him down. He's been averaging 300 points off his bats, 234. He's going to do it. I mean, that was the worst. I mean, if you're not getting to the 300 with your bats right now, you're way behind. And if you're, like I said earlier, if you're below 350, you're below the league average. So, but Nick isn't trying to win this season. He's not trying to be competitive. He keeps making savvy trades that we're all like, what's he doing when he makes them? And they're brilliant. I mean, he's really assembling a really good squad overall. Let me hop over to the team here real quick because there was a couple of guys that I feel like we don't talk about very often. Maybe 1 second here. I mean, when you look at his lineup, Cagliano's probably and maybe Wallstrom are the only people that you're like, oh, I would like to maybe make an offer to him for those guys. But Andrew Vaughn's still averaging over 5 points a game for him. Matt Shaw's on his bench and deservedly so. Jordan Waller's hurt. But look at all his specs. I mean, he's got Charlie Condon down there. He's got Blaze Jordan, Celestin. He's just got DeVries, Aiden Miller. He's got spec upon spec upon spec. Cole Carrick, who I really like, is an outfield spec in Colorado. Go down to his arms, and he's got obviously after last week, Bracton gave him Kate Horton, which was the biggest controversial trade of last week. Christian, yeah, Christian Javier, who I still really like, but he's hurt. He's got Tanner McDougal. We'll see what happens with his surgery. Sakura, I mean, he's got a lot of really good prospects. So his team right now, like the way he's built his team is like what Connor and I have been doing in the past couple seasons. And I think he's really positioning himself. And I think Nick was a fabulous, fantastic add to this league. And I look forward to seeing what his team is going to do next year and beyond. For Height, I mean, his team, we said it forever, but he changed the narrative. We talked about his team being old. His team's not really old anymore. I mean, he's got Bregman, who's 32. He's got Judge, who's 34. And then Walker and Otani. Otherwise, everybody else is starting lineups in their 20s. Go down to his pitchers. His pitchers are a little bit older, more so in the 30s than that. But he traded for the terrorist Aaron Nola. God bless him for that. We'll see. Hopefully, he gets more out of him than I did. But he's got some good pitchers that are on his DL that are going to be coming back too. Corbin Burns will be coming back soon. Scherzer, I believe, is coming back soon. Kikuchi. So he's got some arms. He's got some reinforcements to come back. And 310 will play. And with some good guys coming back, he could be set up for a late season run.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that kind of concludes our recap portion of the podcast. So it's been mentioned in terms of trades this week, not too many. I'm just kind of perusing here. There's not any I guess real impact ones. Well, there's one impact one. But my thought here, I guess maybe was if the three of us kind of just want to pick one or two that we wanted to really kind of discuss, and I'll start. I got to make sure I hit it just because it impacted this week a lot. Happened yesterday morning before the game started, where Emmerich got Stephen Kolek and Connor got Tyson Lewis. In fairness to Connor, because I'm gonna hate on him for a second here, before I do that. In fairness, Kolek hasn't been great this year, at all. Um, he did happen to throw a complete game shutout though against the Mariners yesterday. However, 56 points or whatever it ended up being. Yeah, I mean, I lost by 60. That start combined with other things, I'm not going to put it all on Connor. Um, really kind of made the difference. Really took it from I was kind of in a decent spot, decent lead yesterday to start the day. Um, and then when that happened, it flipped, and suddenly it was a 2 point game coming into today. Um, so yeah, like, and then Tyson Lewis was dropped for something today. So it was Stephen Kolek for a worst. Um, Probably the most valuable worst that has ever been seen in this league's history, I would say. So yeah, obviously Emmerich, and I'll say it too. I'll say it. I have no problem saying it. I said it on Maine. I'll say it now. He outmanaged me this week. There's just no two ways about it. Um, I beat him the first time around a couple weeks ago, month ago, I think. With the Jesse Schulten's deal. Um, with the can't remember now what starting pitcher I got on Sunday. It was when Bracton remembers when I was trying to get Paddock, but Nick gave me somebody else. It'll come to me in a minute. Um, that trade, but bottom line is I was making the moves on Sunday to secure a win, and that I ended up securing. Um, and this week it was Emmerich, and I tried. It wasn't for lack of trying. I tried to get a 12 start this week for today. Um, I was under the assumption Kyler Montero was going to start game 2 of the doubleheader today for Detroit. They pushed him. Now he's going to start Tuesday. So it was a quick scramble. Touched on it earlier. I was looking to try to get Matthew Liberatore, only to find out that first of all he wasn't even going to start today. They pushed him back to Monday, and then second, that game ended up getting rained out anyway. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I tried. I didn't try hard enough. That's for sure. I ran out of ad drops last night. Didn't realize that until the last second. Um, is what it is. But for the trade, that was a great trade by Emmerich. That plus a few others that he made. The Bailey Ober one was very good for him. Worked out for him. So yeah, I'll give credit where it's due, and Emmerich deserves the credit this week. Smell Bracton. I'll go to Smell first. I don't know if you've had any looking at the trades. If there's one or two you wanted to touch on here.
No, I mean, the other day in Maine, I was saying I listed like every player that was involved in the trade. I was just like, God, this has been the worst week I think in the history of the league for trades. Certainly one of the lowest number of trades. But, I mean, one was just made, but the two that I would probably hit on just really briefly. One was one that was made earlier today. And Connor asked me what I thought about it. Jacob Lopez for Jeffrey Springs, a pick. I'm like, Jeffrey Springs and Jacob Lopez. I don't know if there's a lot of difference between the floor ceiling kind of thing. They both pitch for the A's. He gave up a worst to get Jacob Lopez, and now he got basically a worst back with a fourth round pick plus Jeffrey Springs. So I thought that was just a net win for Connor there. And then the one I just made right now with Tito, we've been going back and forth a little bit. Dalen Lyle, somebody who I have been, I don't know, I've been on and off with him, like love-hate relationship. And I've been talking to Tito a little bit about him. He sent me one earlier when I was out running some errands. I'm like, all right. So it basically parsed out for Matthew Liberatore, who's going to have a 2-start week, which hurts me to move him, but it's Matthew Liberatore, which for me would probably have resulted in negative points or maybe single-digit points out of 2 starts. Tita's probably going to get 40 or 50 out of them because that's what happens when people go to Tita's team. Henry Morales is somebody who I just recently picked up. So, I mean, to me, play this year. And then that second round pick of the Churros could be a good pick, but Dalen Lyle is somebody who I think has good power, good speed. I think his job is relatively safe in Washington. He's young, and like I said, my bats have been averaging right around 350, and that's kind of the average of the league. So I need to do something to get 4 points coming in. So why not do it with a young Nationals outfielder?
Yeah, I feel like it happened as we were talking. So that's probably the biggest trade of the week, I would say. Jalen Lyle, very big name. Liberator, as I was just saying his name. Um, Pitcher that Tita's kind of. I mean, I know we made the trade with you, Bracton, earlier. The Zach Allen one. So I know he was looking to get one back after that. But if Bracton, if there was any that you wanted to talk about, or there's obviously one big one that we can talk about that didn't happen. I don't know if you wanted to get into that at all either. Yeah. From my end of it, Paul Skeens has one combined point in his last two starts. I'm not saying that that's just going to become his norm. If it is, I'm just going to jump off a cliff. But for me, in terms of Paul Skeens, when I traded for him from Chad in the offseason, I said that he'll be on my team forever. That is my intention. I don't intend to trade him. However, if I do intend to ever trade him, it's going to be for what I want. Um, there's probably maybe four pitchers in baseball right now that could get that conversation started. Jacob Misarowski is one of them. And I said this to Bracton too, although I know that he wouldn't do him. Cam Schlittler is one of them too. Probably the other two would be like, I don't know, like Chase Burns. Like I've always been a big Chase Burns fan. I don't even know. I don't want to say a name that I don't mean, so I'm not gonna say any more names. The bottom line is Bracton has two of the guys that could get me to move off of Skeens. But it's gonna be for what I want. I respect Bracton for not going to do it. Again, I paid a lot. I don't expect everybody to pay a lot. Especially for who, in my opinion, is the number one dynasty pitcher. my opinion. Not everybody has to hold it. So yeah, like I'm open to some talk about compensation from my end, but as Braxton has found out, I'm not willing really to bend like I have been on other players. I have been in other negotiations. Um, I said build my team around those guys, and that's what I've done. So to move either of them, it's gonna probably need to be something where, and Chad put it perfectly actually, because I was talking to him about it. Um, because when he moved Skeens to me, he had said he's like, I need to make you feel it. Like when you moved him, when you got him, when I got him, I had to feel it, and I felt it. You know, Yamamoto, Reagans, Mason Miller. I that's two high end pitchers and the best closer in baseball. I mean, I felt it, and I felt it this week. You know, having I know Reagans is hurt right now, but having Mason Miller and Yamamoto this week, I'd won. I'd won my matchup. Obviously, that's a vacuum. A lot of other things could have happened, would have happened. But yeah, that's where I am. That's my public PSA about Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens, actually, as everyone has known, he doesn't get the K back until he actually strikes the people out, which he has not done in his last two starts. So, um, most likely, most people aren't going to be able to talk Skeens with me, which is unfortunate, but it's also just where I am. Yeah. But if there's, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Two things I can
I'll
say
say
on that, because you guys were both, sharing the details of the trade with me.
yeah. Go
Bracton
ahead.
sent,
Yeah.
yeah, Bracton sent me the trade, and I'm like, did you send that to Paul or did Paul send that to you? And the previous Paul sent it to you. Go. And full transparency, outside of what I said, I didn't say anything else about I could see that making sense both ways. I understand why Bracton would have done it. I understand why Bracton didn't do it. Um, the second thing I would say is, like, I suppose, is there anything you're like, no, leave me alone. I wish that, like, Logan Gilbert or somebody like that. I mean, abundance of transparency. Like, if Logan Gilbert plus like 7 or 8 first round picks and a bunch of, a couple other pieces worked, I'd be in the conversation. I did it before for Scooball, where I traded like I can't remember like how many pieces I traded, but yeah, I know that that's not what you're looking for. But so if anybody listening to the pod has a pitcher of that kind of caliber that is looking for a small step down, but a bunch of first round picks go with it, I'm your Huckleberry. Drop in.
Yeah. No, I remember that last night and all that. I just with the Gilbert or I mean Wu, I know Cody's mentioned Wu. Um, it's to me, I have the number one pitcher, dynasty pitcher in baseball. I don't really want to drop out of like the top five. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Schlittler
I mean,
is
so like I
Bizurowski is
yeah,
the people's
so
name.
right. So Skeens, then I don't know 2 through 5 here, but I think Miso's in there. I think Schiller's in there. I think Chase Burns is in there. I mean, it's hard to not say Scooble, but he's 29, so dynasty format and whatnot. I don't. It's tough to say that fifth one. Um, I don't know. I mean,
Open your hearts to Foster Griffin.
What's that?
Open your heart to Foster Griffin.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yeah. But like, so between that three, you own two of them, Bracton, and then Jab owns the other one. And I know Jab's not throwing everything at me for Skeens, so I have no problem holding Skeens. I've said it forever that I want to hold him forever. I have no problem just holding on to him and hopefully rebounding from 1.2 starts. So, unless there was anything else, we'll move on to our final portion here next week. My favorite part, exactly. Yeah.
Before we even jump into that, so did you look at the standings now? Since that draft, that combination of draft, Dog, you, me, I mean, everybody but Bracton, basically. Everybody. I mean,
It was a snake draft.
T doesn't have place at 4-4.
No. Here's the reality of that. Here's the reality of that. That I'll defend Hen in saying this. We did the division draft, then we got Nick brought in, and the first thing that he did was tear that team down. What Dave had with that team was a borderline playoff team. So it's hard to say that's Nick. That's where that all comes to where it's in almost. I think that's fair as a counter, but I mean, still, I think I don't know. I think that having me, Cody, and Smell,
Connor.
Connor.
I
mean, all these teams in the same division. Like, I don't know. I think
all 4-4 better.
I don't know. It is what it is. You can't go back and reverse it. We just got to deal with what we got. That's
You got to get fixed.
What's that?
You're going to have to get fixed.
Yeah, and it will. So move on to the next portion.
Yeah.
Start. You know where we're going to start. We're going to start with Nick's first.
Yep.
That's what we're going to start with.
Yep.
We're going to talk about churros and exploding whales first. How about that? Obviously, probably two of the bottom teams. Certainly one of them with Nick, and then Scott and Bracton is able to hold that second or third team. I'm hitting. That's the point here. Bracton, let you go first though. Let's see what you think here. I think he does.
Oh, did they? I didn't miss that. Okay. Okay.
I'd have to go back and look. Okay. I agree. I think this is a week that Scott can kind of get back in the win column. Trying to see pitching wise. I mean, Logan or Landon Roup. I know that Landon Roup's a big time favorite of Scott. Scott's a Giants fan. 2-star week for him. Zebby Matthews 2-star week for Nick. So Zebby Matthews, Nick and I have a long story about Zebby Matthews, where I've been very close to rooting for him, and then I back out, and then I try to go back to Nick, and then he's close, he backs out, and so yeah, it's now I'm probably priced out as Zebby Matthews. Yeah, but bottom line, I'll not that it matters anyway, but I'll take Scott to win this week. What do you think?
Yeah, thanks.
So this is the first time.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, you're good.
Go ahead, Tom.
So yeah, I mean, Zebby is somebody who I know in the offseason, and I was not wanting to trade him, and then I did because of what was happening. And he's facing the White Sox and the Pirates, so Zebby could very easily have 2 monster games. He's averaging about 29.5 in his 2 starts, so that's plausible. He's also got that terrorist. I mean, this is like the family bin Laden, right? Like Kachanowicz or whatever. He's got a 2-star week out of him, and he's facing Detroit and Tampa Bay. But I mean, like I said, it's Scott's week to lose, but it is plausible that Scott loses. I will pick Scott to win. I will not be surprised if Nick pulls it off. If Nick rebounds with his bats and has another, if his bats rebound and he has another pitching performance week like he did this week, he's a 550-point week team at that point, which is about where Scott falls in. I think this is going to be within like a 20 or 30 point by the end of the week. But I think Scott will pull it out and barring a complete game shutoff from somebody.
Right, it's always the variable. Move on to our next matchup, Bracton. We alluded to it earlier. You are taking on Jab and his Ridgeax. What do you think? See what you're doing. McLean. Nolan McLean. I'll say this: you have a chance for sure. The two you mentioned, McLean and Mizio, 2-star weeks. I mean, yeah, it's a great opportunity for McLean to kind of get back on his horse because I do like him a lot. This is going back a little bit, but there's zero doubt about that. At least in my opinion. To me, I don't think he's in the top 5 though, and if he can start performing like he is in the top 5, then maybe we can have that discussion. Anyway, back to this matchup. If I knew, because it doesn't seem that Jab set his lineup yet. If I knew who his 2-star pitchers would be, I could pick him.
He's got Tanner Bibby as a 2-start. He's got Chris Sales a 2-start.
Oh, really?
Bibby's going at home tomorrow against Washington and at home on Sunday against Boston. And Bibby's having a really down year, but he's a good pitcher.
Having heard that, I think I'll pick Jab. I know Bracton, I know you said your catching position is tough. I think there's a few positions where you could stand to benefit. Having Anthony Volpe starting games for you at all this week is a mistake in my opinion. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think his bats can and will outscore yours. It's the pitching. It's the weekly thing for you, Brockton. It's the pitching. If Mizorowski and McLean ball out, Tiller has a good start against who he's starting against. You're gonna be Gavin Williams, whoever he's gonna start against. You're gonna be in the game because that's how it's gonna be every week for you. If those guys ball out, no matter what else is happening, you're gonna be in the game at least, bar minimum. So, but still, having said that, my pick is Jab. I think Jab's been disrespected on this podcast long enough. I'm not picking against the Ridgejacks. That's who my pick is. Smell? No, that's way more than me. And by the way, that thing that you were saying earlier, we both lost this week. So there was no ground gained either way. You have one game. Go ahead, Smell.
I made the prediction last week. Bracton, played the clip teed up that he was going to beat 4 weeks in a row without a loss. I'm like, you're not beating Jab. And as I see the pitching, as I see the 2-star pitchers, Sale at Boston, at Cincinnati, Bibby home against Washington and Boston, Chase Burns at the Mets in Atlanta. I mean, that's 6 of his starts. He's also got Flaherty against the Angels. He's got Sonny Gray at Cleveland. Yeah. I mean, his arms are going to do better than what they've done historically. He's going to score. What did he have again this week? I don't even remember. He had 227, which was above his average. I think he's going to hit 250 plus. I think he's going to hit 400 plus from his bats again. And he's going to be in the mid 600s. And it's going to be a dogfight. And I picked Jab last week, and I'm staying with it.
Fair enough. We'll move on. Smell, we'll do your matchup. We'll do your
How much?
matchup, Smell. Your 15 minutes, Smell.
Oh, okay, yeah, we have plenty of time.
You're taking on Emmerich, who I just took on. I'll give mine real quick. I think you'll win, Smell. Emmerich had a bad came on heavy today, but he had to come on heavy today and yesterday just to beat me, who also had a very bad week. Um, and you obviously are coming off a very good week, Smell. So it doesn't really get much deeper than that. That's kind of where I'm at. Um, so what do you think, Smell?
I have work to do. I traded away my other two start pitcher in Libitor, which might actually help me, but I only have 10 starts right now. And Carmen Mlodzinski is my only two-start pitcher. He's going against the Cubs and against the Twins. So I have work to do to find a couple of starters. So if anybody's shopping a starter, drop in. I'm your Huckleberry. But again, a lot of the other pitching matchups, as I look at this, I'm going to have to, and I only have 10 right now. Sugano's one of them. He's facing the Dodgers in Los Angeles on Wednesday. I've said the Dodgers offense is really hit or miss, so I'm interested to see how that goes. I also have to start Colin Ray at Pittsburgh. I have to start Max Meyer at the Mets, Soroka, San Francisco. I'm okay with Foster Griffin, San Diego at home, Mackenzie Gore, Kansas City at home, Kirby home against Arizona. I like a lot of these matchups, but I need to find two more. But that said, I do think that my overall team is than the Packers, even though the Packers are second in our division and the rest of us are all tied for third. I think I bring Emmerich and the Packers back down to match the rest of us basically and just kind of create more of a quagmire behind Penn. So yeah, I think I'm gonna win. The worst thing about my teams is bipolar as fuck. I have a great week and then I have a low 500 point week. So I'm gonna have to manage the shit out of this, just like he managed the shit against you, Paul. So I will be working this starting as soon as we're done with this pod.
Bracton, what do you think?
One thing Emmerich always says, he looks at the off days. He looks at Mondays and Thursdays to see what those look like. And Thursday, I only have four guys going. I've got Wow, Riley, Pena, and Trout. He's only got three guys going. So Thursday is going to be a telltale day, I think, to really kind of decide this. I also have Colin Ray pitching that day. That's kind of like the off day for everybody. So it'll be interesting to see if I can build a lead going into the weekend.
All right, we'll move on to my matchup. I'm taking on John Height and the Yard Goats. I set my lineups and looking through this, like Montero doesn't have any projection. Rogers, Sproat, Strider, Vasquez. Like, I don't know if Fantrax is just being mean to me because they can't project negative. Um, I don't know what the deal is on that. It's not funny, Fantrax. Um, I didn't look yet at Hen's work. By the way, shout out Hen. He did very good work. It's in that channel. Everybody should go check it out. I haven't actually done that yet. I intend to for sure. But I don't know, and maybe it's in there. I don't think I've ever beaten John Height in this league. Um, you go ahead and check, but I'm pretty sure that's not been the case. And I'd love to, obviously. Um, especially this week, coming off two straight losses. But if this is a segment of trying to be right, I think I should pick height. I mean, it's not gonna affect me, like trying and whatnot. Let's go. Let's make it 2. Yeah. So if we're doing this to be right, I'll pick John Height. But obviously I want myself to win. So Bracton, what do you think? Well, if you followed any of my matchups this entire season, it will be like a 10-point game on Sunday morning, then go one way or the other from there. Either my way or his way. Because that's all I'm in is close matchups all the effing time. So, Smell, what do you think?
Well, the good news for you is come Sunday, the only pitcher he has going is Jansen Junk. That's one of his 2-start weeks. And the other 2-start week is showing Michael Waka, and they're showing him starting Monday and Tuesday. So that's a real dog, man. If he's going to pitch back-to-back days like that, that's some old school shit right there for Waka. But he might get a 2-start week on Waka, too. Yeah, I mean, based on the performance of this year, based on what we're seeing point-wise this year, stat-wise this year, Paul, you should win this matchup. If you have another pitching performance like you did this week, if you're sub 200, you're not going to win. If you're in the mid 200s, closer to 300, like you historically have been, and if your bats are around 400, like they historically have been, you're going to be a 700-point team. It has been in the 600-point range. You should win this pretty handily. So I will pick you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Paul supporter.
Thank you. Smell. I can always count on Smell. But we'll move on. We're running low on time, so we'll move on to our next matchup. It's Jack's Rubber Ducks taking on Chad's Oklahoma City Comets. I'll go real quick. Jack's kind of still getting guys back. Chad had a good week, fell short. I'm taking Chad. Smell, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm taking Chad also. Chad had a really down week against me with his bats. I think those bounce back. Jack is pretty consistent with his performances. And his consistent performances don't match Chad, so I pick Chad.
Bracton. Yep. Gotcha. Moving on to our next matchup, it's Connor Sod Poodles and Hens Beach Dogs. 20-0 Beach Dogs is where I'm at. Especially after last week, I that was the chance for it to not be the case, but unless he plays Cody again, I know that he plays me again. I know he plays Smell. I know whatever. Connor's got a great team, but I there's no stopping Hen right now. Until he gets stopped, I can't pick against him. So, Bracton, go ahead. Smell.
Yep, same. Unless Connor drastically fixes his pitching this week, Hen clears easily.
Yeah. Unfortunate, because Connor does have a good team. I like his team. We don't talk enough about his team. Connor's team's good. Moving on to our next matchup, Cody looking to bounce back against the Flying High Sounds. Tita's team. I know this. It's going to be a dogfight. I know that Tita doesn't. He never backs down. He'll always try and do his best. Cody's team has really rebounded though these last few weeks. I'm going to take Cody's team. Don't clip me, Bracton or Tita. Please don't clip me. Your team's very good, but I'm still going to take Cody's team. Smell what you got.
I'm going to pick Tito. I mean, which means Cody's going to win. It's like I said last week. Every week on the pod, no matter who I pick, if it's Tito, he loses. If I pick Tito's opponent, he wins. So I'm going to say Tito's going to win this week. He's just putting up crazy numbers, and we'll see if it's sustainable. He's pointed out many times how close he is in points to everybody, to Cody and others. So, and he was this week again, putting up the second highest. He was close to fight, or excuse me, to a hen. So I'm going to pick Tito.
There you go, Bracton.
Paul froze. I think, did we hit all the matchups? Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, Paul's back.
Sorry. Internet took a shit there for a second. Sorry about that. But yeah. So that was the last one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that will close out our podcast. Bracton, how much time we got? I'll let Smell go first.
Yeah, right now we have 7-4-4 teams in the league. I've said it before, this is the most competitive league I've ever been in outside of Hen. Hen Solo is the class of the league, and it's going to be really interesting. Looking forward to seeing how it parses out as we keep going.
Bracton. Yeah. Hopefully I can rebound. That's all I can say. I just want to score over 600 again. Scoring under 600 the last 2 weeks has sucked. I've hated doing this shit. Yeah, I just hope I can get. I don't even care if I win at this point. I just want to feel like I'm actually doing something right. But that kind of will do it for our pod this week. Hopefully everyone enjoyed, and we will see you next week.